Greetings of the day, dear learners. I am Miss Rohini Jain, Assistant Professor, Department of Education at Lingia's Lalita Devi Institute of Management and Sciences, affiliated to IP University. Today, we will be taking up the topic Supportive and Behavioral Techniques in Counseling, which is part of your IGNOU course with the course title Human Growth, Behavior and Counseling, and the course code is BSW 124. In our last session, we have already covered some aspects of this topic. Today we shall see the remaining session as part 2 of the series. In the previous units, dear learners, we studied the basic concept of counseling and the process involved in it. After completing this unit, you should be able to know what are, firstly, the supportive techniques of counseling, and second, what are the behavioral techniques in counseling, with specific references to problem solving, rehearsal, and role play, as well as the technique of contracting. So, these will be our major objectives which we will cover in this unit. Before seeing the techniques, let us briefly recall the 4 objectives of counseling. First, as we saw last time, dear learners, to reduce emotional stress. Second, to reduce the dysfunctional behaviors of the client which he or she may be showing. Third, to promote better adaptation of the client to his or her environment. And the fourth one, to assist the client in important personal decision making process. During the initial session of counseling, these objectives are spelled out clearly and stated as specific goals. And the counselor always makes use of his or her intelligence, wisdom, as well as interpersonal skills, dear learners, to help the client in achieving the goals listed under these above objectives. To achieve the objectives of counseling, the counselor needs to familiarize himself with the important techniques which are used in counseling. This unit describes the techniques which a counselor may employ during the course of counseling. And for simplicity, we have divided the techniques into 2 parts: supportive techniques and behavioral techniques. Supportive techniques we have already discussed in part 1 of our session last time, dear learners, as you would recall. As previously discussed, supportive techniques are those general measures which support, comfort and guide the client, and they are mainly directed at reducing the client distress or problem or discomfort. They, however, do not specifically address the psychological and behavioral causes. Thus, as you remember from last time's session, they are also called as non-specific techniques. Supportive techniques can be used at any time during the therapy, but they are most commonly used during the early phases of therapy. Here is a quick recap now. Various supportive techniques of counseling which we discussed in our last session. They are as follows. First, ventilation. Second, catharsis. Third, clarification. Fourth, education. Fifth was guidance. Next was prestige suggestion, environmental manipulation, and externalization of interests. So, all these, dear learners, we have already covered in our last session. Dear learners, let us continue with the remaining types of supportive techniques of counseling. The next one is the deliberate pursuit of pleasure. When clients are unhappy, particularly when the stresses felt by them are genuine and irremediable, that is, they can't be taken care of, the counselor could prescribe the deliberate pursuit of pleasure. This means that the client should get involved in some or the other activity which gives a sense of pleasure and happiness. This will help in distracting the mind and taking it off from the constant ongoing stresses. For example, uh, he or she may suggest that the client can visit the theatre once a week along with a good friend. I am sure you can all logically figure out what would be the effect of this activity. It would give pleasure and happiness to the client. Moving ahead, next one, dear learners, is physical exercise. It is well known that exercise is a promoter of physical health. But what is less well known is that vigorous physical activity too can promote good mental health. Physical exercise stimulates the release of beneficial chemicals such as the hormones serotonin in the brain, and this relaxes the body. Exercise in groups carries greater benefits than solitary exercise. Solitary here means doing it alone. Participating in games such as volleyball, table tennis, badminton, all these can help in regaining enthusiasm, and a feeling of belongingness to a group is given to the clients. This restores a positive attitude and it builds self-confidence of the individual. Then coming on to the next form is meditation and other forms of relaxation. There are several forms of relaxation that can benefit persons who are anxious or worried. Various meditation techniques, however, can be equally relaxing, and these include simple yoga techniques, vipassana meditation, the art of living meditation, and so on. These days, you are all familiar with many more such types of meditation and forms of relaxation. All these procedures, dear learners, they help in benefiting mild depression as well. All these techniques, they include mindful meditation, which uses your breath or body sensations as an anchor, and they help in staying in the present moment. Regular practice of these techniques can improve awareness, it can reduce stress, and it can promote a sense of calm and well-being in the client. Next form, dear learners, is prayer. If the belief systems of the counselor and client permit, which is a very important point, it is recommended that prayer could be of immense psychological and spiritual comfort to the client. Here, it is important to underline both psychological and spiritual comfort. Joining certain religious groups can also offer emotional support as well as material support to such clients in distress. Next form is medication. Clients with minor psychological problems such as anxiety or depression, sometimes it is seen that they require certain medicines. This medication will just help them to sleep better at night, and this has been shown to improve the quality of their life. It increases the happiness duration and it helps in the progress of therapy and counseling. Next one, exercises to keep happy. Supportive therapy in the form of exercises to the client are indicated in the suggestions given below. Here I have listed some basic simple steps. Let us start with the small list. First, meet and talk with close friends more often. This will help in relaxing you. Meet and talk often with people whom you love. Next, make an effort to meet and talk with cheerful persons. If you stay in the company of cheerful persons, you also tend to become and stay cheerful along with them. Then meet and talk with people who make you laugh. This will help you be relaxed at most of the times when you are in their company. Then doing things which you really love to do, doing things which make you happy and keep you active. Exercises and playing games, especially those that make you sweat it out. This helps in the long run. Also, getting adequate rest. Then, next, plan leisure hours, your leisure activities, entertainment, and hobbies. Put them in your regular schedule. Next, dear learners, each day as you get out of bed, concentrate on something you look forward to. When you do something which you are looking forward to, it gives you a sense of purpose. And also, make it a point to do something for someone else. This gives you great satisfaction. Next, dear learners, it is important to live in the present moment. Concentrate on appreciating the pleasure and happiness which arise from moment to moment rather than focusing on problems which exist or the sorrows that you experience. Emphasize on positive experiences. Practice smiling, laughing, and telling jokes more often. So, with this, we come to the end of supportive techniques. Now, let us take up part 2 of the topic behavioral techniques. Following are the behavioral techniques mainly used. First, problem solving. Many clients enter counseling because of difficulties that they have not attempted to resolve. These difficulties can be broken down into specific problems, which can then be addressed by conventional, typical problem solving methods. Steps involved in problem solving. First, listing the problems clearly. This step, dear learners, is very important. Putting down your problem specifically is the first step to moving in the direction of solving the problem. Breaking each problem into smaller sub-problems and then listing each of the ones which can be specifically discussed. Next, selecting a problem to be addressed. It may sometimes be advisable to begin with the easiest problem. Listing several possible approaches to solving each sub-problem would be the next step. Selecting the most viable approach. Out of all the possible options, the counselor will help you to select the most viable or doable approach. The next step would be to implement this approach. Next, evaluating the results. And next, after this, returning to an earlier step if the results remain unsatisfactory. So, the cycle of these steps is going to be repeated again. It is very effective because it encourages clear thinking and leads to practical solutions. Dear learners, the second type of method is rehearsal and role play. Clients can improve their self-confidence and ability to handle difficult situations by anticipating these situations, that is, already expecting what would come next, and then rehearsing or practicing their responses. A degree of role play between the client and the therapist may be required for this kind of rehearsal or practice. Third method, this, dear learners, is called as contracting. Contracting seeks to effect behavior change. It causes behavior change by offering incentives which are contingent on the client's compliance. There are two important kinds of contracts, dear learners. The first one being good faith contract, and the second is termed as quid pro contracts. In a good faith contract, the client is given an incentive with the hope and expectation that he will show the desired behavioral change. For example, a father may agree to buy his son a bicycle provided that the son promises to study for at least 1 hour daily. So, these types of incentives are offered in exchange of good behavior. In a quid pro quo contract, the client receives an incentive for each occasion that he shows the desired behavior. It is usually between two people where both will show desirable behavior towards each other in exchange of good behavior. That means when two people are involved and there is a kind of arrangement that you scratch my back and I scratch your back. That means you help me and I will help you in return. Although contracting may seem to be a very artificial way of effecting behavioral change, it serves two very important purposes, dear learners. The desired behavior is brought about, and this behavior could, in course of time, possibly become spontaneous after sufficient repetition. That means good behavior has been repeated so many times that it now becomes spontaneous or natural. These are the main behavioral techniques which are used in counseling. With this, we come to the end of this second part of the topic. I hope you've had a great learning, dear learners. See you in the next series. Thank you. Have a good day.